outside of the galaxy locally referred to as Milky Way. Scout's log, entry 9,211,104. I have concluded after many stellar cycles of scouting, observing, and the like, that this galaxy, the one called Milky Way by its preeminent species, may appear ideal for conquest. Recommended course of action, however, is to not engage. Neft the highest starts before he lets out a long, low sigh, something he inadvertently picked up from the humans he had been observing for some time now. It was odd, he knew, but these humans who didn't know he existed somehow still impacted him. In their words, they were rubbing off on him. Being a Trephalian, the thought of touching another being seemed disgusting and was understandably forbidden, but the human term didn't actually refer to touching one another. Neft stands from his seat and surveys the cockpit around himself for a few beats. It is brimming with technologies, ones that the humans would kill to have. He knew because he had studied their behaviors, and he knew they would want everything that his masters had created. The humans wanted it because they knew as well as he did that everything here could be used for weapons. Everything is weapons with these humans, Neft thinks, somewhat surprised by the thought. Everything is a weapon in the eyes of the humans. Everything can be bested. And yet they do not conquer as thoroughly as my masters, the ones that the humans refer to as the war makers. I'm shocked they even know of the existence of my masters. However, shocked or not, this changes nothing. Walking over to his nourishment station, Neft retrieves a sad imitation of the juice from his homeworld and childhood from the food fabricator. He longed for the comfort and familiarity of home, but he knew that he'd never see his home star again. He wasn't the master of his own life, not anymore. Returning to his seat, Neft prepares to continue his final report on the so-called Milky Way. He hated what he knew he'd be saying. His words could kill millions or billions of the humans that he had grown to admire. Despite their short lives and odd habits, Neft saw the humans as a sort of equal to himself. He admired them as well. Wetting his tongue with the mucus gland directly over his oral passage, Neft resumes his report. I advise against engaging the humans for the sole reason that they seem to be preparing for something. Despite my sincerest efforts and the combined power of every computation machine available to me, I was unable to ascertain what these humans perceived as such a threat, and this concerns me. No other race that I have encountered in my many, many stellar cycles of life have ever prepared for military engagement as the humans have. Their fleets are 964 times larger than even the most militaristic races that I have observed, and that were later conquered. These massive human fleets only pertain to their active military vessels, and not the ones that have been decommissioned. The humans refer to this as mothballing, and these mothballed ships are kept in a state that allows them to readily re-enter service. The humans possess industrial capacity to replace their entire fleets within a short period of time as well, should they lose them in the opening days of conflict. Aside from their ships, the humans also have standing military forces that are many times greater than even the most warlike people I have observed. Even the greatest militaries in all of the records you have made available to me are dwarfed by the human military might. The only force I am aware of that is greater than that of humanity is the Kaldrat Nexadraxi, your servants. The humans also have military outposts on the fringes of their galaxy that serve as listening stations, and they are watching for any and all activities from beyond their known galaxy. There is a cluster of such stations on the most likely invasion point that the Kaldrat Nexadraxi would take, should you choose to heed the previous plans for invasion. This amassing of such overwhelming forces can only mean that the humans are aware of an outside threat. I suspect this threat that they know of could be us, but other gathered forces elsewhere in the human-held galaxy seem to suggest that they know of other threats beyond the segments of space that I have observed them visiting and gathering information on. This is quite concerning. Neft takes a few steadying breaths in order to regain his composure. His gills and lungs had been damaged in the war against the Kaldrat Nexadraxi long ago, and they were scarred to the point that he was unable to speak for extended periods. With one final deep breath, Neft says, "End report." Sighing once more, Neft rises and returns to his study. Scattered all around the study are datapads, data crystals, and even some scrawled notes on the walls, his desk, and on many sheets of paper. Looking down at one of the papers, Neft can't help but feel a sense of amusement. Every sentient race of the universe that he had encountered had developed paper or something that served a similar purpose. Even those without sight made use of paper-like substances. It was one of the many technologies that tied sentience together, despite the great distance between them all. Lowering himself to a squatting position near his desk, Neft pores over his notes yet one more time. He needed answers. He had to know why the humans would prepare for a threat from beyond their galaxy when, according to everything he knew, there was absolutely no reason that the humans could possibly know about the threats beyond. No other race had ever gone to such great lengths to secure their borders from invasion from without, and yet the humans seemed to know much more than they disclosed. It was as if the humans had the ability to see the future itself, which was an absolute impossibility. No race had ever exhibited such a skill, even though many pretended. Neft stares at his notes, at the many references of humans warring with themselves, with races within their own galaxy, and with imaginary enemies and things the humans called war games. The closest thing he had to a reason for their building up of forces on their borders was their war games, but no race that ever had similar activities thought to prepare for threats they had never encountered like this. The Kaldret Nexadraxi, should they be sent to attack humanity, would suffer immense losses, unforgivable ones. Losses so high that Neft knew he would be held to account for said losses, and he would pay with his life. There was a distinct chance that the undefeated Kaldret Nexadraxi would even lose a war with the humans. According to every computation model, the chance of failure stood at 30%. No other race in the history of Neft's masters had ever had even a 1% chance of success in a war. That's what made Neft so nervous. The reason why the humans only stood a 30% chance of repelling an attack was because they were presently divided. There was something they called a ceasefire between the unified coalition and a disorderly amalgamation of human-controlled planets and systems opposite that organized coalition. The disorderly planets had once been unified under the name Alexandrians, but that had been a lifetime ago for the humans. Yet even divided, those disorganized worlds would not bend the knee to their apparent betters. None of this made sense. Looking to another set of notes, Neft wheezes and then injects himself with another Noth Chorea treatment to remain awake and lucid enough to continue his work. His hearts race as the medicine reaches them and his mental fog lifts somewhat. Scanning the notes, he dwells on how the humans seemed to be on a war footing, even when there was no war to be had. It was as if the humans were worshippers of war, yet Neft knew they were not. Not in the same manner as the conquered before them. Humans were different. And different was an impossibility. None of the conquered had ever been different. There was never a race doing a new thing. The humans even have a sentence they use from a historical text. They call it a praise, and it states that there is nothing new under the sun. And yet the humans defy even this logic and appear to be something new. New was a threat. New was the very reason why Neft knew the humans had to be subjugated as his own race had been. These humans were special enough that his masters needed them. Studying his notes further, Neft reflects on the treatment of the conquered races of humanity. The many alien races that they had warred with, and then, once the war was over, the humans integrated the defeated aliens into their own society. For the most part, this incorporation was done without threat or bondage, which was also a new thing that Neft failed to comprehend. The humans had old documents, ones written many generations beforehand, that spoke of all men being created equal, and the humans seemed to think, for the most part, that this applied to the other races in their galaxy as well. Even the lowest sentient species were treated well, the very species that Neft's masters would have totally and completely eradicated. None of what the humans did made sense. Neft finds himself mumbling as he reads, considering the threat that the humans pose. I would be a fool to advise an attack, and yet I feel obliged to do so. There is a beep, and then the ship's AI, Neft calls it Beeper, says, Scout Neft the highest, I must advise you to rest. You have not given your mind or body a chance to recover in 20 cycles. I cannot, Neft snaps as he studies his notes with greater attention in an act of defiance. He did not appreciate the AI or its constant nagging. The AI did not understand just what kind of mystery these humans were. No self-respecting Trefalian could leave such a mystery unsolved, even if their health and even their very lives were at risk. You must, Beeper urges. Were you a human, this would be your 20th year without sleep. Even your own people rested in their first days of discovery. Neft holds up a cool, damp arm. They were not discovering the humans. Now silence. Very well, Beeper gives in, followed by a quiet beep. Neft knew that he was exhausted. He knew that this could end up being his final mission because his very body was giving out. However, answers had to come. His life was a small price to pay for these answers. Should another Trefalian come to finish what he started, he wanted them to know as much as was possible. The human enigma needed to be addressed, The human enigma had to be conquered. Shaking in awe and anxiety, Neft cries out, "We must make them subjects of my masters. They must bow before them as my people have. The humans cannot continue like this, it is lunacy. No other race would consider actions as these." Slamming his arms against his desk, Neft smashes it to pieces and sends all the research that had been carefully laid out into the air. In a rage, he shouts, "Beeper, resume my report now." "Very well," Beeper sounds, "I am recording now." Staring out into the void beyond his window, Neft looks toward the Milky Way, toward the home of the humans. Shaking still, now in a rage, he says, "Amendment to Scout's log. Entry 9,211,104. It is highly advisable that the humans be brought under the complete and total control of my masters. We must learn what secrets they hold and learn of who they are preparing to war against. Conquest is preferred, but extinction will be required if that is not achievable. It is advisable that the Kaldrit Nexidraxi be sent in immediately. It is advisable that their complete force should be concentrated on a small region of human-controlled space to ensure their success. The usual broad conquest cannot succeed, and my computer models support this. It is advisable that the old machinations and any other remaining forces within the human-controlled galaxy be activated in order to preoccupy the humans and allow for a successful invasion. It is recommended that no effort should be spared, lest the humans retaliate. This is imperative for the continuation of the order of the universe, of which my masters control. Scout Neft the Highest, signing out. End report. A few silent moments pass before Beeper asks, "Did you not advise against this mere moments ago?" Neft waves the AI off uselessly. He did not understand the humans, and that was a threat. It was a threat to himself, to his masters, and to the universe itself. Everything had its place. Everything has its order. Every race has its master, save Neft's masters alone. The humans defied all of this. And like the wayward children they were, they had to be brought back into order. No rebellion could be allowed, especially not on a scale like this. Seething, Neft feels hot mucus slipping over his mouth and chin in a manner no Trifalian had felt in hundreds of human centuries. It was something that only happened to the greatest of warriors before battle. It was a warning to any and all who stood against them that they would die. The rebellious humans would either join the fold under Neft's masters, or they would fall. Nothing else could be allowed because the enigmatic humans could not be understood. Surrendering to his body's needs, Neft collapses. Moments later, he breathes his last breath as his heart fails. Neft's final thoughts did not dwell on his home, nor on his slain family. Instead, he thought of the next Trifalian who would finish what he started. Who would understand the humans that Neft failed to? Thank you for listening to this story. If you liked it, be sure to check out some of the author Caleb Fast's published stories on Amazon. I've linked to his best-selling story in the description and comments section. Also, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.